Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, September 17th, and this is 2019, and I'm redesigning the schoolgirl motor, and with the consideration of the Model T spark gap that was originally used in the Model T Ford. Of course, I'm going to do mine from mousetraps. So the got some interesting theories to come up with, but there's your close up of the system, and the windings right here on the bottom that I was showing. That's just showing the two bifilar wires coming through the direction that you're spinning the bobbin, and your start, and then back and forth in that consideration. Now, the thing that was interesting on the point gap system is the original coil that was in there, like I was explaining yesterday in another video or in the past videos, is that coil was wound this way, and then a straight wire came back, and then it was round the opposite way, and a straight wire coming back. And I intend on the bifilar coil to actually wrap it that way. One of my theories that I have with the trigger coil and the bifilar coil is that you want a ratio on those turns. So I plan to wrap the trigger coil 270 turns overall, but the run winding will be 180 turns. So I want the run winding to be 180 turns. Now I want the trigger to be 270 turns. So the trigger will actually be wound first to that ratio, and then built on up from that point. The 12 volt 3-watt light bulb to be at the top of the trigger in series, and that'll be going to the resistor, the variable resistor, to the center sweep of it. And then the resistor that's in that circuit will be 75 ohm, 50 to 75 ohm resistor. One of the things in my consideration to really getting this back to, crude is hey, Jason, I loved your last one too. That was really good. The getting back to the basics of getting this really crude using the old crystal radio diodes. And so using a germanium crystal and getting that into a copper base, and then using a stinger to find the biasness to stop current one way. I think that'll be kind of fun to experiment with and get familiar with. The in my system, I'm going to go ahead and stick with a 47 microfarad capacitor to buffer the point system, and of course that's in series in that area. The like I said, redesigning the system from what would normally be the base connection. That would be normally the base connection. Okay, I got a B for the base, and bringing that up to the base of the coil system. So I'm I'm planning on using this part of that system as the diode, okay, as a transistor. The emitter in the system, the connection is right here on the emit side, and then you have your collector. So anyway, as we redesign this puppy in a layout, and I've laid out 9 12-volt batteries, and like I've always explained, even going through the series connection, the battery that's on the front end of that is the loser when it's wound, when it's done in this configuration. Okay, if you go the opposite way coming back, then the battery on this side would be the loser. Okay, so this is the battery when you're switching that you've got to recycle through the system, and that can be done with switching. And I call this kind of like the heartbeat or the pilot light of the system, because all we're working with at this point is the adjustable gap between 1.2 and 1.4 amps, and using that. So well, yeah, the germanium diode is still a diode, the germanium crystal, and it is from the old crystal radio set as far as using the energy from the AM radio wave to actually hear it on the earplugs. And it's been a long time since I played with a crystal radio set, but it's kind of like I've said a long time ago that the technology that we're republicating, if you will, in other words, it's technology that a privileged few really know all the ins and outs through that. And anyway, we're having the opportunity to rediscover these different technologies and how they harvested energy. One of the things I got interested in was the Tartarian Empire. And the Tartarian Empire, when you went back to understanding that they did things a little bit different. One of the things is the spires, if you will. We're finding out that those were filled with mercury, and they would spin those up with oscillation, and they could drop contacts into those, and they could handle lots of current, lots of voltage, kind of like a blender, if you will. And they were actually filled with mercury on those spires to handle tremendous amounts of switching. Even the floors, they're discovering as they're pulling up the tiles, the black tiles were negative potentials, and the white tiles were positive potentials. And so they were building the batteries right into the floor. What we were known as Greek architecture is they're in the decommissioning of those buildings. They're finding that there are coils, Tesla coils, in those spires. And they built all that right there in plain sight. And so we call it tower to the dome and spires and everything. That's one of my philosophies, that you can build a battery right there in plain sight. But in harvesting energy, you have a battery type system. So there's something that happened. Some people are proclaiming that it happened within the last 400 years. But there were the mud floods, and you look at those buildings, that a lot of those buildings got commissioned into churches and cathedrals, and also government buildings. And so lots of things that happened when we were right there in sight, we don't know about. It's part of history, but the claim is now that the San Francisco, for example, was one of the hubs of the Tartarian Empire, as well as Chicago, Illinois was another part of that. New York was one. And in my study with history and stuff, even the Empire State Building, they're claiming was actually there longer than what we were told, and that the machines that they built the Empire State Building with, huge milling machines to build the different beams and everything. One of the interesting things was even there was a publication I ran across, and I use SolidWorks quite a bit. I'm not a real good SolidWorks user, but I'm familiar with it from the CNC units, and the guys that can really draw that stuff up are just amazing. But one of the things was they publicized basically a SolidWorks type program to illustrate how all the beams and everything went together layer by layer by layer. So that proves to me that if they had that in the 40s and they do a film of that, that there was more going on than just drawing that stuff up and making that possible. So yeah, the Tartarian Empire study is kind of interesting, and understand the tower to the dome, the spires to the dome. Technology as far as civilization that was right there in plain sight. I work a whole lot with polymers, and chemistry is one of my big things. And like I said the other day, when I keep coming back to battery technology, that I keep coming back for the core of being activated carbon. And because in the metronomic motor generator system, the return voltage that comes back for the horsepower I'm on, that works perfectly. There's no heat buildup in the activated carbon battery. The battery properly designed should actually last a lifetime, 100 years. And there's no doubt that carbon can handle that. And talking about different components and things, the other day, a battery that I designed back in August, now it became available. And, which came first, chicken or the egg? Okay, did I think of it, and all of a sudden they invent it, and do it? They, I don't know, 100th monkey syndrome. But anyway, the batteries that are coming out are now available. That it's kind of like I'd planned on spending a lot of money in development of a battery, and now I find out that I don't have to manufacture that side anymore. So we have the batteries now that we can buy off the shelf that'll handle what I'm doing anyway for my airplane. So the getting back to the Bedini, this is my plan, how I'm planning on using it, and hope this is informative, give you stuff to start looking up. But it's been an adventure. Like I said, every time I deal with electrical technology, I keep coming back that there's an intelligent mind behind all this, and there's stuff that's been taken away from us. I call it in the name of money, but through the system, it's been a training ground of learning how people can take parts. And I do this just because I like it. Like I said, I don't want to change any paradigms or anything. But as we wake up and can still use the infrastructure, still be a part of the economy, but also do spin-offs for our own personal projects that we're wanting to achieve, it's pretty cool. So anyway, I got to get to work. I'm steam cleaning. I got all one half of both rooms steam cleaned. I got to move furniture around and steam clean the other side, get that up. Got some other lights that Mama wants to have replaced and stuff. So I got to keep Mama happy. But I was working on this morning and thought I'd share it with you. You guys have a blessed day. Oh, and still I got 2 more parts of so look for part 5 and part 6 of my other videos that's coming out. So Jason, you have a blessed day. Thank you for coming by and stopping with me. And I'll see you guys next trip. Bye for now.